So de-dollarization did not just start because Russia was put under sanctions. You see, the two bucket theory that we have, and in that, the Russia-Ukraine conflict is something that actually helps the dollar. This is because you have one set of healthy nations clashing with one set of so-called rogue nations. And when that clash happens, the dollar gets support because in all kinds of economic uncertainties around the world as a whole immediately wants to make sure its savings are secured. It considers the dollar secure because there is a prospect of endless printing and endless liquidity because of its reserve currency status. So you will see that wherever there is a conflict, for example, if a military scale conflict were to happen between China and Taiwan, it always ends up helping the dollar. The dollar will become much stronger. Similarly, the Russia-Ukraine conflict made the dollar strong in terms of its valuation. All right, now we really need to understand when de-dollarization in these terms started. So I have in some previous talks also said that it was the Indian Prime Minister who took the lead for the de-dollarization of the world process. This is because there is a whole set of countries, particularly in the Middle East, that have come to understand that accumulating all their savings in dollars is just foolish because it is a fiat currency which is essentially backed by nothing, printed totally out of thin air. The second set of countries are those that purchase energy. Energy consuming countries and also those that conduct bilateral and multilateral trade using dollars, they too have come to understand that all of the socialist freebies that America is printing, because we conduct all of our transactions in dollars, we are the ones bearing the cost for the entire American lifestyle, right? So the purchasing countries have also come to understand that de-dollarization is something that will have to be done, right? Because we were enriching some other currency instead of our national currency. So since we are inevitably going to move towards a pegged currency world, there are going to be some very significant changes in the world now. It is a once in a century kind of change, especially in terms of the valuations of industry sectors across the board. So let me tell you that this time the situation is not at all like 2008, where you could simply just print your way out of trouble. This time around, you might be able to bail out one or two entities, but if you actually, when the main banking crisis finally arrives, and I am talking about the Credit Suisse and Bank of Japan type event, during that kind of domino effect, if the Federal Reserve decides to print currency and tries to bail everyone out, then what you will see is such an inflationary bloodbath that there will literally be gun shootings happening on the street just to steal basic items from the shop. The inflation will absolutely reach that kind of level if there is massive printing done this time around. You know, my single biggest concern right now is that our physical gold is currently lying in England. I really do not know what moves the government is planning to make, especially the Reserve Bank of India, because we would not want the decoupling to happen to such a drastic extent that, you know, the entire relationship gets completely ruined and we reach a state of seizing of assets. But I do believe that, you know, that is a possibility. So as far as the Indian economy is concerned, then all of those sectors which are heavily dependent on outsourcing verticals and on the revenues from Western clients are going to face a great deal of trouble. They will face many problems because the West will simply not be able to afford, as I have said, to pass on any more work to Asia. In this de-dollarized world, this is because the currency's valuation is going to slip. How transactions will happen between a pegged currency and a fiat currency, referencing invoicing. The negotiation for that will be a whole separate thing. And as far as the Indian stock markets are concerned, well, whatever crisis events happen over there in the West, the Indian stock market will feel the shock. Even if it is only temporary, it will be a very big shock. And also because the FIIs will also withdraw. Because if the West itself is having a liquidity problem, then there is bound to be a withdrawal from the stock market here. Okay, so how will people in the West be able to manage it? I have very serious doubts because as we are seeing on YouTube now, because I am talking since I had predicted this entire scenario a full 7 days before Biden even took the oath. de-dollarization and how these crises are coming, people were just laughing back then. And now we see some of the YouTube channels speaking out loud on de-dollarization. In the West, within the mainstream media, it is still like Janet Yellen says that the US economy will face a significant asset loss in its valuation terms. And she says it is because of climate change. So she says that this is not, I mean, she's clearly trying to cover it up by calling it climate change. It is exactly like what Hillary Clinton says, that printed currency notes should be removed because of climate change. So everyone understands that this is all a de-dollarization effect, but they are just coming up with different excuses. I have even seen some reports, which I had also predicted last year, that throughout the Western media, a whole lot of these articles are being artificially planted, telling you to start eating insects. They are saying bugs and insects, it is a high source of protein. What kinds of excuses have they been coming up with? In the European Union, they have even started selling cricket flavored ice cream in Germany. Some of it is in a roasted powder form. I'm telling you all this, Aditya ji, because if these kinds of experiments are to be done on the Western population, then it is better that NRIs get out of there. I am telling you the absolute truth, because you do not realize that these insects they contain toxic amounts of various chemicals which are actually very harmful to human health. From lead all the way to potassium, there are extreme quantities of toxic metals inside of them. That is the thing they are not telling. Okay, so they are creating this entire narrative because they already knew that the supply from Asia after the de-dollarization happens of excess manufacturing and farming will now prioritize the Gulf. You have to understand this one thing. Lesser and lesser quantity of crude oil. As time continues to pass, their crude oil stock is limited. So what is happening is a lesser quantity of crude oil is now chasing a lesser quantity of manufacturing and farming from Asia. Their own stock is continuously depleting, and with what is left, they have to purchase manufacturing and farming supplies from Asia. And those supplies are also decreasing, because of the limited availability of natural resources. So in this entire equation, absolutely no one is going to give any kind of priority to the West in trade. Asia itself will also want to secure its own energy first, rather than exporting it to the West for a fiat currency. Do you understand? So for me, it feels completely justified, this whole artificial narrative that is being pushed, that you should start eating insects, because many of the manufacturing and farming supplies that come from Asia are going to completely stop in a de-dollarized world. Right. And the currency's valuation is also going to flip, meaning even if Asia wants to sell, the West simply cannot purchase in the quantities it used to, not the demonic quantities they were purchasing up until now. So the racks at Walmart and Costco will be empty. And after that happens, I really do not know how the Western population is going to manage all of this. As far as NRIs are concerned, I would say that the money you currently have just lying there in your 401k, the money that is in your bank account, and whatever excess cash or funds you have, my strong suggestion is that you convert it into physical gold as soon as you possibly can. Because gold is truly the only asset which has zero political risk. It has zero geopolitical risk, zero counterparty risk, zero liquidity risk, and also zero default risk. So you see, our gods do not just wear gold for nothing. There is a deep civilizational wisdom behind it.